Could you ever imagine a betrayal so profound, so deeply twisted, that it shatters your entire perception of family? What if someone you loved weaponized a devastating illness for their own selfish, attention-seeking gain? Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Hazel. Grab your coffee, because today we have a story of unbelievable deception. Wren had always been the dependable, grounded sister in her family, the one everyone came to for practical advice. Her younger sister, Calliope, however, was a different story entirely, always thriving on drama and being the center of attention. From childhood, Calliope had an uncanny knack for creating elaborate scenarios to ensure all eyes were firmly fixed on her. Wren often found herself exhausted, constantly cleaning up the messes Calliope left in her wake, trying to keep the peace. She loved her sister, of course, but their relationship was often a roller coaster of manufactured crises and emotional theatrics. Wren had built a quiet, fulfilling life for herself, working as a librarian, cherishing her peaceful evenings and good books. She often wished for a calmer connection with Calliope, one not punctuated by constant, urgent demands for attention. There were always little white lies, exaggerated stories, or sudden, dramatic events that conveniently placed Calliope in the spotlight. But Wren always brushed them off, thinking it was just Calliope's personality, a neediness that would eventually fade. She genuinely wanted to believe the best in her sister, to overlook the smaller deceptions and focus on their shared history. Then came the phone call, the one that changed everything, chilling Wren to her very core. Calliope sounded breathless, her voice laced with what Wren initially believed was genuine fear and despair. "Wren," she whispered dramatically, "I have to tell you something. It's really bad." Wren's heart immediately plummeted. She braced herself for another one of Calliope's usual, slightly embellished crises. But this time, the words that followed were unlike anything Wren had ever anticipated, even from her sister. "I've been diagnosed," Calliope choked out, her voice trembling with what sounded like profound sadness. "It's a very aggressive form of cancer, Wren. They said it's advanced. I don't know what to do." Wren felt the world tilt. Her mind raced, grappling with the shock, the sheer enormity of the news. All of Calliope's past theatrics vanished from Wren's mind in that instant, replaced by overwhelming panic and concern. "Oh my goodness, Calliope," Wren managed, her own voice cracking. "Are you serious? What kind? What do the doctors say?" Calliope was vague, focusing on the emotional impact rather than medical specifics, which Wren didn't question at first. "It's so rare, Wren. The doctors are saying it's very serious," Calliope lamented, skillfully avoiding direct answers. The news ripped through their small family like wildfire. Everyone was devastated, rallying around Calliope immediately. Their parents, aunt, uncles, and cousins flooded Calliope with calls, visits, and offers of help. Calliope embraced the role of the suffering patient with a chilling ease, accepting all sympathy and assistance. Family members started setting up fundraisers, pooling money for what they believed would be immense medical bills and support. Wren, deeply concerned, helped organize a large online campaign, pouring her own savings into the cause too. Calliope's social media became a constant stream of updates, photos from hospital beds, and heartfelt thank you notes. She posted about her brave fight, detailing vague symptoms and thanking everyone for their incredible generosity. The attention was exactly what Calliope craved, and she was absolutely soaking it all in, basking in the outpouring of love. People she hadn't spoken to in years were reaching out, expressing their condolences and offering their moral support. Wren, though heartbroken for her sister, began to notice small, almost imperceptible cracks in Calliope's story. Calliope always seemed to be, quote, too sick for actual doctor's appointments, only ever providing vague summaries. She never shared hospital names, specific doctor's contact information, or any concrete treatment plans. When Wren gently tried to inquire about details, Calliope would become defensive, claiming Wren was being insensitive. "How can you question me now, Wren? Don't you think I'm suffering enough already?" she'd often retort, shutting down inquiries. Wren dismissed her unease, telling herself it was just the stress of the illness, making Calliope behave erratically. But a persistent, nagging feeling began to settle deep in Wren's gut, a quiet alarm bell she couldn't ignore. She started discreetly observing Calliope, looking for any inconsistencies in her behavior or her elaborate narratives. Wren noticed Calliope's book of bad days often coincided perfectly with times when attention was waning from her, and her good days were suspiciously timed for social events where she could be seen and receive more sympathy. Wren confided in her partner, Gideon, about the unsettling feeling, trying to articulate her growing suspicions. Gideon initially tried to reassure Wren, suggesting she might be overthinking things due to stress. But as Wren meticulously laid out her observations, even Gideon couldn't deny the patterns emerging. He encouraged Wren to trust her intuition, to keep a quiet, objective eye on Calliope's behavior. Wren began a secret journal documenting every sighting, every sudden recovery, every financial request. She noted how Calliope claimed extreme fatigue, yet would miraculously have energy for late-night outings. Calliope would complain about nausea, only to be seen later enjoying a large, indulgent meal. There were no visible signs of weight loss, hair loss, or the general frailty expected from her purported condition. Wren observed that Calliope always managed to eat well and maintain a vibrant appearance, despite her claims. The family, devastated by Calliope's illness, rallied around her with unwavering support and financial aid. Wren's parents dipped into their retirement savings to cover Calliope's experimental treatments and medications. Calliope would often mention urgent medical bills, claiming her insurance wouldn't cover the full cost. Wren also noticed Calliope's social media posts were carefully curated to showcase her struggle and bravery, but occasionally a fleeting moment of vibrant normalcy would slip through, quickly deleted by Calliope. Wren would screenshot these accidental slips, tiny pieces of evidence for her growing file. She started subtly asking family members about Calliope's specific doctors or clinic locations. Calliope always had vague answers, mentioning specialists out of state or private clinics. Wren tried to offer to drive Calliope to appointments, but was always met with firm, almost offensive refusals. Calliope insisted on going alone, citing the need for privacy and her fragile immune system. The family, wanting to respect Calliope's wishes, didn't question these secretive arrangements. Wren felt a deep sense of unease, a gnawing suspicion that something was terribly wrong. She loved her sister, but the emotional and financial strain on their family was becoming immense. Calliope's stories grew more elaborate, detailing harrowing procedures and near-death experiences. Each dramatic update would bring a fresh wave of sympathy and, inevitably, more financial contributions. Wren started cross-referencing Calliope's medical claims with general medical knowledge she found online. Many of Calliope's symptoms and treatments seemed inconsistent with standard medical protocols. One evening, Calliope called their parents in a panic, claiming she needed a large sum for an emergency procedure. She described a sudden, life-threatening complication that required immediate, expensive intervention. Wren overheard the frantic conversation and felt a cold dread wash over her. This felt different. Her parents, desperate to save their daughter, immediately began transferring funds. Wren decided she couldn't stand by any longer. The financial toll was becoming catastrophic. She knew she needed irrefutable proof before confronting her family or Calliope directly. Gideon, seeing Wren's distress, offered to help in any way he could, suggesting some professional resources. He mentioned a friend who was a private investigator, someone who specialized in discreet inquiries. Wren hesitated, feeling guilty about potentially invading her sister's privacy, even with her suspicions. The vision of her parents' dwindling savings and Calliope's escalating demands solidified her resolve. Wren made the difficult decision to contact Gideon's friend, explaining her delicate family situation. The investigator, a woman named Margot, listened patiently to Wren's detailed account and her concerns. Margot explained the ethical boundaries and what kind of information she could legally gather. She assured Wren that all inquiries would be handled with the utmost discretion and professionalism. Wren provided Margot with Calliope's known addresses, phone numbers, and social media handles. She also shared the dates of Calliope's supposed appointments and specific medical claims. Margot began her work, quietly digging into Calliope's life, checking public records and clinic affiliations. The waiting was excruciating for Wren, a constant battle between hope and her deepest fears. She still held a tiny flicker of hope that her sister was genuinely ill and she was terribly mistaken, but deep down Wren knew she was likely uncovering a far more painful and calculated betrayal. Slowly, meticulously, Margot began to piece together the truth about Calliope's elaborate charade. She checked with the, quote, specialists Calliope claimed to be seeing, verifying their practices and patient lists. What she found was disturbing. Many of the dates Calliope provided simply did not align with clinic schedules. Some of the doctors Calliope named were real, but they had no record of ever treating a Calliope Finch. Other clinics Calliope mentioned confirmed she had never even been a patient in their system. Margot discovered that Calliope had used old appointment cards from a friend's past doctor visits. She'd meticulously altered the dates and doctors' names, creating convincing but fake documentation. The specific medications Calliope claimed to be on had never been prescribed to her by any pharmacy. Margot even found evidence that Calliope had purchased some medical supplies online for dramatic effect. The proof was irrefutable. Calliope had fabricated every single detail of her supposed illness. When Margot presented her findings to Wren, the weight of the betrayal was almost unbearable. Wren's heart shattered into a million pieces, not just for herself but for her deeply loving parents. The grief was overwhelming, far deeper than if Calliope had actually been sick and passed away. This was a calculated, cruel deception designed to manipulate and exploit their family's love. Wren felt a cold fury simmering beneath her sorrow, a fierce protectiveness for her unsuspecting parents. She remembered Calliope's history of exaggerated stories and dramatic outbursts for attention. There were childhood instances, high school theatrics, and minor emergencies that always centered on Calliope. But this was different. This was a profound, sustained act of emotional and financial abuse. Calliope had siphoned thousands of dollars from their parents, and Wren, under the guise of her illness, the money meant nothing compared to the emotional damage, the terror, the grief her family had endured. Wren realized Calliope didn't just want attention. She wanted control, sympathy, and financial gain. Her sister had deliberately preyed on their parents' compassion and Wren's unwavering loyalty. The realization hardened Wren's resolve. This elaborate lie could not be allowed to continue. Calliope needed to be stopped, not just for their family's sake, but for her own twisted sense of reality. Wren knew the truth would devastate her parents, but living this lie was slowly destroying them all. She decided to approach Calliope first, hoping for an ounce of remorse or a moment of clarity. Wren armed herself with Margot's meticulously compiled evidence, her heart aching but firm. She called Calliope, requesting to meet her alone, stating it was urgent and deeply personal. Calliope, ever the actress, played coy and concerned, agreeing to meet at a local coffee shop. Wren braced herself for the inevitable confrontation, knowing it would be one of the hardest of her life. The coffee shop felt charged with unspoken tensions as Wren laid out the evidence. Calliope's initial reaction was a practiced look of shocked innocence, then a rapid shift to outrage. "How dare you accuse me of such a thing, after everything I've been through?" she hissed. She tried to gaslight Wren, claiming it was all a misunderstanding, a jealous fabrication. Calliope even attempted to accuse Wren of being unsupportive and heartless during her, quote, illness, end quote. But Wren held firm, presenting undeniable proof. The altered documents, the clinic confirmations. Calliope eventually faltered, her carefully constructed facade crumbling under the weight of the truth. Her eyes darted around, searching for an escape, her usual theatrical confidence completely gone. Wren told her she knew everything, and that their parents deserved to know the truth as well. "This stops now, Calliope," Wren said, her voice trembling but resolute. "No more lies." Calliope begged, pleaded, and cried, promising to change, to, quote, get help if Wren kept silent. But Wren had heard those promises before, countless times, always followed by more deception. The trust was irreparably broken, shattered by years of manipulation culminating in this profound betrayal. Wren explained that silence was no longer an option. Their parents needed to heal from this trauma. The next step would be the hardest, but Wren was determined to protect her family, no matter the cost. Wren carefully prepared for the most difficult conversation of her life. She knew telling her parents would devastate them. It was an impossible burden, revealing that their beloved daughter had woven such a cruel tapestry of deceit. She gathered all the evidence, the medical records, the financial statements, the contradictory stories Calliope had told. With a heavy heart, Wren sat her parents down, taking a deep breath before beginning her painful confession. Their faces contorted in confusion and then profound disbelief as Wren laid out the shocking truth about Calliope. Piece by piece, the elaborate deception began to crumble, exposing the raw, ugly reality of their daughter's actions. The realization confronted them like a physical blow. The heartbreak was palpable, an almost unbearable weight in the room. Wren's parents confronted Calliope, demanding answers, their voices laced with a mixture of sorrow and profound anger. Calliope, naturally, tried to manipulate them again, denying everything, playing the victim, but her act was finally over. The years of lies, the faked illness, the stolen empathy, and money, it all came crashing down around her. The family sought professional guidance, attempting to navigate the complex emotional landscape Calliope had created. Wren and her parents embarked on a long, arduous journey of healing, trying to mend the deep wounds left by betrayal. This kind of deception leaves scars that linger for a very long time, affecting trust and family bonds profoundly. It took immense courage for Wren to expose her sister, but it was the only way for the healing to truly begin. As for Calliope, she faced the significant consequences of her actions, losing her family's trust and respect. It's a stark reminder that even within families, some betrayals are too profound to ever truly be forgiven or forgotten. What do you think? Grab your coffee and let me know in the comments below. How would you handle such a situation? If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like this video and subscribe to Hazel Tells Stories for more tales of justice and drama.